The Kidnapped Santa Claus. Santa Claus lives in the Ho-Ho-Ho Valley in the North Pole, where stands the big rambling castle in which his toys are made. His workers are selected from the Ryls, Knooks, Pixies, and Fairies that live with him, and everyone is as busy as can be, from one year's end to another. On one side is the mighty Forest of the Red. At the other side stands the huge mountain that contains the cave of the Grinch. The Grinch hated Christmas and hated Santa. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Grinch lived in the cave with his dog Mark. One day, he was out grocery shopping with Mark. By passing Ho-Ho-Ho Valley, he sees several Christmas decorations. For it was nearly Christmas Day. He commented,
"Oh, fish. Mark, this is too much. These Christmas decorations are getting on my nerves. Christmas times always annoys me to no end. And all because of Santa Claus." "You're right, Mark. There's nothing we can do about it." "What are you suggesting, Mark? You think it's actually possible to kidnap Santa?" "Okay, you're right. We should at least try."
It's common knowledge that while Santa is in the Ho-Ho-Ho Valley, he's protected by the force field that the Fairies, Ryls, and Knooks create for him. But on Christmas Eve, when he drives his reindeer out into the big world, carrying his sleigh filled with toys for the children, this was the Grinch's best chance to capture him. So, the Grinch laid his plans and awaited the arrival of Christmas Eve. The next day, Christmas Eve came, and the Grinch had come up with a plan.
"I know just what to do,"
the Grinch laughed in his throat. The moon shone white in the sky, and the snow lay sparkling on the ground as Santa cracked his whip and sped away out of the valley and into the great world beyond. The large sleigh was packed full with huge sacks of toys. As the reindeer dashed onward, our jolly Saint Nick laughed and whistled and sang for joy. For in all his merry life, this was the one day in the year when he was the happiest. The day he lovingly bestowed the treasures of his workshop upon the children. The reindeer knew exactly what was expected of them and dashed along so swiftly that their feet scarcely seemed to touch the snow-covered ground. Suddenly, a rope shot through the moonlight, and a big lasso settled over the arms and midsection of Santa Claus and quickly drew tight. Before he could resist or even cry out, he was jerked from the seat of the sleigh and tumbled head first into a snowbank, while the reindeer rushed onward, oblivious to the hijacking of their driver. Such a surprising experience confused old Santa for a moment, and when he had gathered his senses, he realized that the cunning Grinch had yanked him from the snowdrift and bound him securely with many coils of rope. He then carried the kidnapped Santa away to his cave, where he chained him to the rocky wall, unable to escape. Laughed the Grinch, rubbing his hands together with a wicked glee.
"What will the children do now?" "I know. They'll cry and yell and stomp. And when they find there are no toys on Christmas morning, I will have finally stopped Christmas."
Now, it so happened that on this Christmas Eve, Santa had taken with him in his sleigh Nutter the Ryle, Peter the Knook, Kilter the Pixie, and a small fairy named Whisk, his 4 favorite assistants. These little creatures he found very useful in helping him to distribute his gifts to the children. And when their master was so suddenly dragged from the sleigh, they were all snugly tucked underneath the seat where the sharp wind could not reach them. The tiny immortals knew nothing of the capture of Santa until some time after he had disappeared. But finally, they realized that they had missed his cheery voice. And as the master always sang or whistled on his journeys, the silence told them that something was wrong. Little Whisk stuck out her head from underneath the seat and found Santa had gone. And there was nobody to drive the sleigh.
Whoa!
She yelled, and the deer obediently came to a halt. Peter, Nutter, and Kilter all jumped upon the seat and looked back over the track made by the sleigh. But Santa had been left miles and miles behind.
What shall we do?
Asked Whisk anxiously. All the mirth and mischief had vanished from her wee face by this great calamity.
We must go back at once and find the boss.
No, if we go back or delay, there will not be enough time to get the toys to the children before morning, and that would grieve Santa more than anything else.
I'm certain a wicked creature has captured him, and his plan must be to destroy Christmas. So, our first goal is to get the toys delivered. Afterward, we can search for Santa.
This was a good, sensible plan. So Peter the Knook called the reindeer, and the faithful animals once again sprang forward and dashed over hill and valley, through forest and plain, until they came to the place where children were sleeping and dreaming of the gifts they would find on Christmas morning. The little creatures had set themselves to their mission, for although they had assisted Santa on many of his journeys, their friend had always been in charge and instructed them. But now, they had to do this job all on their own, and they didn't know the children as well as Santa did. It's no wonder that they made some silly mistakes. When they finished their work, the sun was coming up, and the toys were all delivered. So they returned to Ho-Ho-Ho Valley. The little folk began to wonder how they might rescue their boss, and they realized that they must first figure out what happened to him and find out where he was now. Suddenly, on the heap of ice, they saw Santa watching them, getting closer and closer. Soon, they gathered around him and asked what happened.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas, friends! Don't worry, I'm all right. That grumpy Grinch thought Christmas would be destroyed by capturing me. But he didn't know that Christmas has never been about me or the gifts. It has always been about the gift of Jesus and sharing the joy he puts in our hearts with others.
The Grinch was following Santa and eavesdropping from behind, and soon realized his mistake. He then came aboard the sleigh to celebrate Christmas with Santa, Riles, Knooks, Pixies, and Fairies.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get future updates. And don't forget to comment.